Before I became an estate agent, there was a point when I found myself in a bit of a financial pickle. I had a property investment in Joburg South and it was just bleeding money. And just to really add insult to injury, the tenant moved out and I was not able to place another tenant. So I quickly realized that I had no choice but to dispose of this property. And I really just wanted to get rid of it as quickly as possible. So I just listed it at a price where I would get enough to just pay the bank what I owe them. So I could basically just move on with my life and forget about this experience. So I was pretty surprised when I got an invoice from the transferring attorneys to say I owe 20,000 rand. I was like, but I thought the transfer costs are paid for the buyer. It turns out there are costs to selling a property, which I learned the hard way. And as a result, you can learn from my experience. Today, we're going to look at all of the costs that are involved when you dispose of a property. And by the end of this video, you will be able to know all of the expenses that you can expect to pay so that you are fully prepared when you sell your property. I'm Sebolelo, aka Sebolelo the Estate Agent, and welcome to the channel where we give you tools to help you buy or sell your property for first-time home buyers and first-time home owners. There's a lot of attention being given for buyers and the costs that are involved when you purchase a property, but there's substantially less awareness being built around the expenses that you are going to incur if you're a seller when you dispose of your property. Sometimes people sell their properties out of convenience. Other times they sell because of financial pressure. And in this case, of course, every last cent matters. So it really helps to be prepared when it comes to budgeting and knowing what you will need to pay as the seller. So the first cost is not really hidden. It's one of those conversations that happen quite early. Oftentimes, as soon as the estate agent is agreed to list the property, the owner will ask, how much is your commission? Okay, so first of all, it's not my commission, okay? It is a fee that the company charges to market your property, to use their offer to purchase and their assistance. Then the agency will pay me a fraction of that money. It's not my commission. Sorry, I'm deviating, but yeah. So this one, like I'm saying, is quite straightforward. It's not hidden. By the time you list your property, you will have had a conversation with the agent. This amount is usually calculated on a percentage basis, but either ways, you will know exactly how much the agency is going to be taking from the listing price. So you will know exactly to the T how much you are going to get in your pocket. The second factor is not as common as commission, but it is a little bit more well known. It's about the electrical certificate of compliance. Every time there is a sale of a property, the seller needs to provide a certificate of compliance. I have recorded a video about it, and basically the COC is provided by a qualified electrician, and it's basically assurance to the buyer that all of the electrical connections in the house are correct. When it comes to a certificate of compliance, it's not just electricity. If there's gas in the house, then you'll need to supply a certificate of compliance for gas. You'll need one for the electric fence. In certain regions in South Africa, you'll need to provide a beetle certificate. Now, that is basically a certificate to ensure that there are no wood-boring bugs that will compromise the structure of the property. You might need to supply a water installation certificate, which basically just affirms that the water conforms to the national building regulations. Price-wise, at the moment you're looking at about 700 to let's say 2,000 per certificate, provided everything is in order. If there's anything that needs to be fixed, you will have to pay a little bit extra to get that up to scratch. So as a seller, these are costs that you need to take into account, money that will come directly out of your pocket, because these certificates need to be supplied before registration. You cannot register a property without the necessary certificate of compliances. The third one will be rates and levies. A like would be really appreciated if you find this content useful, and feel free to subscribe if you want regular updates on real estate in South Africa. Throughout the process of the sale of the property, and while the attorneys are busy doing their thing, the rates and levies are still due to be paid. You don't literally make the payment to the council. The attorneys will take the money from the proceeds of your sale. So what they'll do is the council and the body corporate will take the amount ahead by, let's say, 3 to 6 months. So that's quite easy to calculate. You will say 3 or 6 months or whatever, times whatever your rates and your levies are. If it should happen that the property registers before the calculated period, you will automatically get that money deposited back into your bank account after registration. I do want to just say, I want you to just make 100% certain with your agent and with your attorneys, because it is possible that maybe in some areas your council might work a little bit differently. So just make 100% certain on that one, that your council works exactly the same in that sense. The next one is bond cancellation costs. If you cancel your bond earlier than the agreed term, whether it's because you've been paying extra towards your bond, or like in this case, you're now selling your property, the bank is going to penalize you for that cancellation. Usually that's about 3 months worth of interest. So depending on how far along your bond is, how much your bond repayments are, you will be able to sit and look at your bond statement and be able to calculate how much interest the bank is going to charge you for those 3 months. Now, if you want to avoid this penalty, you need to give the bank 3 months notice. So I always say, as soon as you decide you want to sell, make sure that you give the bank the 3 months notice, and take into account that that notice is only valid for 3 months. So if your property has not sold in 3 months, you need to put in another notice, and you keep doing this every 3 months until your property is sold. If there is an amount that needs to be paid regarding the bond cancellation, that amount is taken from the profit of the proceeds of your property. The next one refers to you if you don't have a bond. It's about a title deed. Now, a title deed is basically a document proving proof of ownership. If you've got a bond on a property, you will not have the title deed because the property belongs to the bank. The title deed is with the bank. Whenever we come to the sale of a property, we cannot sell a property without a title deed. Once you make your last repayment towards your bond, the bank is going to ask you, would you like the title deed? If you can, please leave it at the bank because it's safe there. I know we want to be tempted to take it, just to look at it, just to be able to say, hey, I've got the title deed. Maybe you want to post on social media and show everybody that you've got your title deed. But if you can, rather leave it at the bank. If you want to sell your property and you've lost the title deed, it's going to cost you about 7,500 Rand to replace it. Now, there's no such thing as a certified copy of a title deed. If the original is damaged or lost, you are going to have to replace it. Now, you don't have to pay the money out of your own pocket. The money will get deducted by the attorneys from the profit of your proceeds. I'm sure now you can see how all of these little amounts add up. So in my case, because there was no buffer for profit to be able to take this money out of, it was money that then I had to pay from my own pocket because there was no profit where the attorneys could then take these deductions from. Number 6 is repairs and maintenance. You know, once you've been living in the same house for a very long time, there's a lot of little snags and things that break that, you know, they've been there for so long, you basically don't even notice it anymore. You know, it just kind of like becomes part of the furniture. You'll have things like a sagging ceiling, leaking taps, broken little plugs and things like that. So like they just, you don't even notice it anymore. Now, when you sell the property, somebody who buys the property is very quick going to pick this up. So you must remember that you are going to declare stuff on your disclosure form, but there are certain things that you will need to fix, whether it's because you just want to get them done or because the buyer is saying, no, listen, you need to fix this, or whatever the case may be. So make sure you got a little bit of a buffer and a bit of money put away so that you can take care of these little things that need to be fixed before you sell the house. Another thing you might not have thought about is moving costs. I think it's so easy to get caught up in all of these lots and little things that we forget to take into the budget the fact that you need to move. Now, chances are very high that you'll only be taking that step after registration, meaning you will already have your proceeds in your bank account by the time you need to move. But you also need to take into account that it is money that you're going to need to part with. So you must remember that even if it comes after the property has already been registered. It's money that's going to eat into your profit. So you must take that into account when you calculate how much money you are going to be able to keep when it comes to calculating how much of the money will be left for you to keep. Just to quickly go back to title deeds, if you've paid off your bond and the title deed is with the bank, then you won't need to replace it because, obviously the title deed is still with the bank, so that's less cost for you. So maybe you might find that as a strong reason to want to pay off your bond early. So why don't you check out this video called, Is It Worth Paying Your Home Loan Early? I'll catch you in the next video.